against a police state, against racist intersectionality, against political correctness, against mob rule, against the racist socialist left, against the victimhood liars. The idiots have been in charge way too long. And that's why you're here. For the podcast you need. All for liberty all the time. Welcome to Liberty Bites Back. With your host, Brandon Imo.
I'd like to go ahead and welcome you to the third episode of Liberty Bites Back. Today, I'm going to go over how we are going under mob rule, and also how the culture war is real, and it affects us all. It's not just a right versus a left issue, but it's an issue for all Americans. First, we have morality policing, or mob rule. Whatever you call it, the lawless ones are the ones controlling the system. The first example I want to go over is Kyle Rittenhouse and Gage Grosskreutz, who Kyle shot in the arm, blowing his bicep off, after Gage, who was holding a gun at Kyle and expected not to be shot, well, he was. And Kyle has been crucified on the mainstream media and is in jail for killing two and shooting Gage, even though Kyle was defending the city that he worked at, and he was asked by businesses and someone gave him the gun in Kenosha. Now, Kyle was clearly self-defense, but Gage is worshipped by the mainstream media, and the police never have even arrested him. Even after one of his friends said that he said his only regret is not killing the kid, hesitating to pull the gun before emptying the entire mag into him. Coward. Should have killed him right then and there. And that's what Gage's Groskowski's friend Jacob Marshall said that he said. And no jail time for Gage. And then the second example I want to go ahead and go over with you is Mark and Patricia Mikowski of St. Louis. They were defending their home from a mob. And who was charged with the felony? That's right, the homeowners. The Mikowskis were one of the first people to see mob rule being placed into action in America. The Black Lives Matter mob of over 500 people were threatening them. Mark Mikowski stated, "We were told that we would be killed, our home burned, and our dog killed. We were all alone facing an angry mob." And that angry mob, everyone, they trespassed on private property, and the DA still charged the Mikowskis with a felony and took their guns, even though the mob was the one at fault. And remember, the DA charged them with a felony and took their guns. Guess what happened after they took their guns? The mob returned to their home many times after the state disarmed the couple. Then the third example of mob rule or morality policing in America, it's a lot more recent. It was in Milwaukee on the 15th of September. A mob came to this man's home, and he held his shotgun out the window towards the mob, and he was arrested. They believed the man was racist. As in the video, though, the only thing seen is a Trump flag. That's what's seen. But the Black Lives Matter mob came and attacked his home, and the police arrested him for defending his own home instead of dispersing and arresting the mob. Now, they did go ahead and state that he was intoxicated, but are you not allowed to defend yourself when a mob comes to your home and you just decided to have a beer? I think not. I think you are always able to defend yourself. All of these police are accommodating the mob instead of trying to follow the Constitution. These police are ignoring the law of the land for mob rule instead, and this must stop. This is not the law of a republic, but more or less a savage land. And now I'm going to go over about 3 different ways the culture war is affecting us all. There's a war with the ideologies. Now, intersectionality is one way the culture war is real, and it affects all people, whether they are right or left, or none of those. Politics doesn't always weigh in on the idea of racist intersectionality. Now, intersectionality is defined as a theoretical framework for understanding how aspects of a person's social and political identities, examples are gender, race, sex, class, sexuality, religion, disability, physical appearance, height, and etc., combine to create unique modes of discrimination and privilege. Or, in other words, it's a belief that we must treat others differently based on gender, sex, race, class, sexuality, religion, disability, physical appearance, height, and etc. It's a racist, sexist, and prejudiced ideology against all the factors that nobody can choose for themselves because it's how they were born to also. It's how they were born to be. But then also, this ideology is being prejudiced against people because of their religion, because they are healthy, because they are attractive, and way more other things like that. It's a false belief that stems from the lies of equity, since these ideologies are against equality. Anyone who says they want equity are therefore also against equality. The idea is usually through the view of the lens of this example. A black woman might face discrimination from a business that is not distinctly due to her race, because the business does not discriminate against black men, nor distinctly due to her gender, because the business does not discriminate against white women, but due to the unique combination of the two factors. But by using equity to try to fix this, by using intersectionality to try to fix this, they instead make new victims due to their ideology by making it limited or illegal to hire other races or sexes, so she would be accepted or hired. This in practice has led to Asians not being allowed to attend college without scoring higher on their SAT than all other races, since their ideology has led to the racist belief and they've fallen into their own thing they condemn. They've fallen into stereotyping. They think that Asians are smarter than everyone else, which is racist. Intersectionality also has led in practice African American, Native American, and Hispanic high schoolers having to score lower than the rest. Like they can score lower than the Asians as they promote their racist ideology and stereotype that African American, Native American, and Hispanic people are stupider than the rest. And as a native, I find that abhorrently wrong, and I condemn the racist practice of intersectionality and their ideas of equity. All of this racism is said to be in the name of social justice, and that's a dog whistle for these weird ideology racists. They call themselves social justice warriors, or they always bring up privilege. Those are the dog whistles. You can tell if they are racists who believe in these intersectionality ideas. And then another way the culture war is real is through critical race theory, and it affects all people, whether they are right or left, or none of those as well. It affects all people, since we all have a race. Critical race theory is the clear-cut ideology to try to argue privilege. It's pushing to judge all off their skin color, to argue they are racist due to their skin color, or to say that they won't achieve anything based off their skin color. It's a clear racist indoctrination theory to perpetrate the lies of being against racism while pushing it. Critical race theory is defined as a theoretical framework in the social sciences that examines society and culture as they relate to categorizations of race, law, and power. Now, in the definition itself, it states, they even do so, focusing on race. Also, when they say power, this is also interchangeable with privilege. Critical race theory says that it's against the whiteness of society, but while doing so, actually, is racist against every other race as well. Stating the idea is that individual is a primary unit is a white idea, while many cultures are being ignored to them to claim this. Self-reliance to them is as well. And I'm just going to go ahead and list subjects and ideas that they say are whiteness. But as I do so, realize that they are being racist against every culture and skin color when they claim these and are the true white supremacists rising in the culture, and we need to worry about their racism, which is blatant and disrespectful. They state independence, nuclear family, husband being the breadwinner, wife being the homemaker, children having their own bedrooms, objective rational thinking, cause and effect relationships, Western culture, Judeo-Christian tradition, Christianity itself, monotheism, hard work, work before play, ideas of wealth equals worth, your job is who you are, respecting authority, believing in ownership of goods, space, and property, planning for the future, time schedules, steak, potatoes, wanting a blonde thin woman, thinking a man is attractive due to his power, money, and intelligence, Christian holidays, protecting property, being number one or wanting to be the best, winning at all costs, written tradition, avoiding contact, avoiding intimacy, not showing emotion, not discussing your personal life, and even being polite. So in saying all of this, they are saying nobody but white people have done any of those things, which is incredibly racist. And it's incredibly not true. And they should all be ashamed of pushing their racist ideas into our culture. These ideas are in colleges, workplaces, high schools now, comic books, video games, movies, and I don't believe there isn't one culture that exists where they haven't infiltrated and tried to take it over with their ideas. This is not a right versus left anything, but is clearly spread far and wide. They're infiltrating everything they can touch. And political correctness is another way that the culture war is real and affects all people, whether they are right or left or none of those. It even ignores some history because it is, as they would say, confusing or troubling. Now, political correctness is defined as a term used to describe language, policies, or measures that are intended to avoid offense or disadvantage to members of particular groups in society. In other words, it's a diversion of our language to censor people and say their PC language is the only acceptable words to be used, as they call all that don't comply politically incorrect. But beyond changing definitions alone, which is scary, it also changes what history and what topics can be discussed. With their ideas of PC history, they actually hide Native history in America, as it goes against their narrative. I'm sure they even hide more history, as times and events are always way more complicated than they are allowed to say in their political correct bubble they have formed around. Now I'm going to go ahead and give you the Native example, because it always melts their brains, as it's revolved around the story they can't ever seem to get right. The Civil War in America in 1861 to 1865, the Cherokee Natives and other native groups fought for the Confederacy. But to them, they state all people who fought for them wanted slavery. But that could not be any more incorrect. For it's super clear with the Cherokee and the natives as they fought to free themselves from slavery and establish a free nation state. Because of all three of these ideas, many things have been called racist or bigoted, including, but not limited to, the word master, master bedrooms, blacklist, Jesus statues in the different cultures, chess, Gandhi, cow's milk, roads and highways, coronavirus, orcs in the Lord of the Rings, the word whitening, even if used for toothpaste, applause, math, front lawns, monkey cartoons, women's crushes on Asian men, soap, white people speaking against racism, white people not speaking against racism, hiking, the Golden Girls, the TV show, biological sex, asking how are you or how was your weekend, craft beer, air pollution, Abraham Lincoln, the countryside, mermaids, salt or sodium, earthquake warnings, horse racing, being nice, trying to not be a racist, Toy Story 4, jogging, Mary Poppins, Anglo-Saxon, wives, sandwiches, women, environmental activism, science, Western philosophy, libraries, dogs, dieting, yoga, Scrabble, wine, not having intercourse with minorities, having intercourse with minorities, rock music, tipping a waiter or your anything, veganism, and even Dr. Seuss. Those are all considered racist in the ideas of the people where these ideologies have infiltrated their minds. That's just to name a few of these crazy things that these people with these ideologies call racist. And political parties created this mess that we are in. I'm terrified of all parties. They make all mindless zombies following a party and ostracizing anyone who doesn't agree with the party at the time. In George Washington's farewell address, he said this about political parties. However, political parties may now and then answer popular ends. They are likely in the course of time and things to become potent engines by which cunning, ambitious, and unprincipled men will be enabled to subvert the power of the people and to usurp for themselves the reins of government, destroying afterwards the very engines which have lifted them to unjust dominion. And then he also stated, the alternate domination of one factor over another, sharpened by the spirit of revenge, natural to the party dissension, which is different ages and countries has perpetrated the most horrid enormities. In itself a frightening despotism. But this leads at length to more formal and permanent despotism. The disorders and miseries which result gradually incline the minds of men to seek security and repose on the absolute power of an individual. And sooner or later, the chief of some prevailing faction, more able or more fortunate than his competitors, turns this disposition to the purposes of his own elevation on the reins of public liberty. And then George Washington even went further with, it always serves to distract the public councils and enfeeble the public administration. It agitates the community with ill-founded jealousies and false alarms, kindles the animosity of the part against another, foments occasionally riot and insurrection. It opens the door to foreign influence and corruption, which finds a facilitated access to the government itself through the channels of party passions. Thus the policy and the will of one country are subjected to the policy and will of another. It seems the only thing that George Washington missed was that political parties would also start their own spy rings. It also helps people spread their crazy ideas that otherwise people would not even listen to their crazy words. Political parties are created to divide. The individual cannot agree with everything another person says and does, and it makes many fall into the view of suspecting all in their party of being like them, instead of focusing on the individual. Some speak ideas, and those ideas become similar to a religion or a cult, where those who disagree with them personally or a candidate are ostracized. If political parties don't exist, if they didn't exist, the ideas would be freely stated and people would just follow who's close to their ideas at the time. Personally, I never fall into the party system, but my personal political ideology I do have, and I go with what fits my current issues, my current situation, and what will be best for my 4 years or 2 years to come. But many under the party system will never leave their party for fear of being ostracized. I hope that you all have a great day. Thank you for watching. Bye.